let's talk about the NBA trade deadline to start it off here. Man, what a deadline. Every year, it feels like it couldn't get better. I mean, Luka went at the deadline last year for AD, and then they doubled down, and it felt like every superstar in the NBA was bouncing around to a different team.
Wait, there's more.
Initial thoughts on a insane trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, you said it well. Like last year was unprecedented, obviously, with the Luka trade. We've never seen a star of that caliber be dealt in the middle of the season outside of like I guess KD from the Phoenix trade. But yeah, again, they one up themselves, the NBA, because there wasn't obviously Giannis didn't get traded. That would have been the big fish.
You think?
But we see James Harden, we see Anthony Davis. So a lot of teams look a lot different now, especially for next year. Is going to be sick to see. And the best thing is the offseason is arguably going to be even better because we're going to see most likely Giannis move. We're going to probably see Kawhi move, John Morant. So there's a lot of names, a lot of teams with moves to be made. Obviously, Kings fan, I'm not part of any of it. We got fucking DeAndre Hunter, but yeah, man, it's cool to see. It's cool to see people moving around.
Right, absolutely. Dovensky, on to you. What's just initial reactions from this trade deadline?
I'm in the same boat as you.
Take it to see Mr. Murdoch.
Not a single trade. Not a single trade. I blame Milwaukee. Milwaukee didn't want to move Giannis. Giannis isn't happy. Giannis wants to stay in Milwaukee. Bro, I'm not going to lie. I was at work. I was on my phone just refreshing Twitter. I'm like, please. I'm just hoping. I'm hoping. I'm like, yo. Like, we were like right there. Hearing Miami is close to getting Giannis. Miami is like the last team to try to get Giannis. And then Milwaukee's not interested in giving up Giannis. We didn't get John Morant, which I'm not even upset about because now it's coming out that Memphis wanted either Jaime Jaquez Jr. or Khalil Ware plus a first-round pick and Terry Rozier. Honestly, Terry Rozier in the first-round pick, I wouldn't care. But giving up either Jaime Jaquez Jr. or Khalil Ware, that's a bit too much for me, in my opinion, because like they're the best. They're like the two best players on the team right now. Bam is like up and down, always up and down. But like seeing Benedict Mathurin move from Indiana, I was shocked from that. Dang, what else? Harden. Man, I don't even want to talk about Harden. Next, Vinny, you go, because I'm about to get pissed off.
Well, now I want to know because also thank you, boys, for having me. Excited to be here and chatting with you. Like Dovensky, like Jack, not a single move from my Miami Heat. And now I'm confused. Dovensky, did you want Harden on the Heat?
No. I'm just mad
I had to double check.
No, like every time Harden just like doesn't get his money, that's when he wants to go. Yeah, like if you wanted to leave last year, that would be understandable because Kawhi was injured and he was basically carrying the team on his own. But now the Clippers somehow turned it around, and now all of a sudden he wants to leave, and because he didn't get the extension that he wanted, and now traded to Cleveland, which most likely they'll get LeBron in the offseason. But
yeah,
even if they get LeBron, I don't really see much happening for Cleveland.
And I'm surprised that Harden, that was the one that shocked me the most because the Clippers literally won 16 of their last 20 games going into the week of the deadline. And now Harden all of a sudden wants out. So I was shocked by that. And I didn't love the move for Cleveland because, yes, did Darius Garland miss a lot of time in the playoffs with injury? Yeah, but that happens. Harden is not exactly the pinnacle of health out here. He's most likely going to miss some time too. And you took what was a probably 5-year championship window with youngish guys like Donovan, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, plus DG. And you took that window and you shrunk it to probably this year and next year. You got this year, maybe next year out of James Harden where he can really produce for you. And that's about it. So I don't love the fact that they kind of gave up what would have been a long window in a pretty, decently weak Eastern Conference. And then on top of it, I just feel like James Harden, we've seen it before in the playoffs. He shrinks when the lights are bright. When it's an elimination game, when it's game 7, James Harden will get you maybe 12 to 15 points on 40% shooting. And that's not good from someone who's supposed to be a superstar. So I didn't really love that deal for Cleveland. I see why they did it. Garland is a very undersized point guard. He is a bit of a cone on defense. So, and I'm intrigued to see how Donovan and Harden play next to each other, but didn't love that deal for him. Didn't love the fact that the Miami Heat did absolutely nothing, even after finding out Giannis wasn't getting moved. But I wasn't surprised. I've learned over the years that you cannot get your hopes up as a Heat fan because every star on the market is going to be – every single star, man, is going to be rumored to go to Miami, have interest in Miami, want to play there long term, and it doesn't happen. We watched it happen with Donovan, with Giannis, with Dame, with Harden, Kawhi.
KD, Kyrie.
Yeah, exactly. You can't get your hopes up as a Heat fan, and I got other Heat fans that I'm friends with texting me like, "Oh, did you see Sham say or Windhorst said the Heat have the best deal for Giannis? I got a feeling it's coming." Nope, I refuse to get my hopes up, and that's why I didn't let myself get disappointed this deadline. But it was a crazy deadline as far as moves. Anthony Davis was not surprised. I was surprised that Zubac got traded. Jaren Jackson, but no Ja. That one was a shocker. So, the best trade deadlines are the ones that have that shock value, and nothing will ever top the Luka trade as far as shock value. But I think they did pretty good this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that kind of, I don't know if that's like the narrative that the NBA wants to set now is, man, we gotta try to top that. But it definitely felt like it with everything that was going on. As far as my initial reaction to this, just complete shock that some of the trade packages that happened around some of these players is kind of where I'm at. Not necessarily that they were moved, but the value of some of these trade packages was quite eye-opening. It felt like teams were swapping half their rosters for other halves of rosters. So I don't know if that's necessarily what they're aiming for, but that's what teams' asking prices are sometimes. So that's just kind of the name of the game. And that's a really good transition into just talking about some of the big ones. And we've already talked about the Harden trade for Darius Garland and pick. So this was just a busy 2 days. It got really quiet on the third day, which that kind of happens. All the big stuff happens initially and then it slows down. But what's and I can kind of start here and we'll go kind of reverse order. I think one of the biggest trades or one of the most surprising ones or beneficial ones that I think we're going to see a lot of impact, at least right away, is going to be what the Chicago Bulls were doing with kind of that cap room. And it's not glamorous. At first, everybody thought, oh, well, this is for Giannis. But then they started trading away guys that probably should have been included in a deal package for Giannis. But they are getting under that dreaded second curtain of the cap now that you have to get under. And I think they did a really good job of it, but also acquiring some decent talent, at least to kind of build off of at least short term. Obviously, Vucevic is gone now. He's a Boston Celtics. That was part of their moves, but I love the Jaden Ivey move. I think if he pans out in Chicago, he's going to be a really, really solid 3-and-D guy every single night. And Chicago is going to rely on him quite a bit. Now they can just try to back build and see what they can get out of some of these picks that they've stockpiled and go from there. This is a team that started off the year hot and has definitely cooled off quite a bit heading into All-Star break. But that's that's kind of where I'm at with these. Jack, what was one big kind of move at this deadline that we haven't quite touched on yet? Again, we talked about Harden and the AD deal, but what's another one?
I think we kind of did say a little bit about it, but the Zubac trade.
Yeah.
I am in the minority, I think, when I think the Clippers are one of the biggest winners from this deadline. I like the fact that they didn't let their recent success dictate what they're going to do for their future, because if they had, just been like, we've won, what was it, 16 of our last 20, let's just see what happens in the playoffs. Realistically, if the Clippers the team they had, you weren't going to make a championship run. You get good value out of James Harden with a young guy like Darius Garland. But outside of that, trading Zubac is it wasn't on the radar for me, to be honest, but I really do like the value they got of him. They got 2 potentially really good first-round picks. Now that 2029 Pacers pick probably won't be amazing, barring injuries or whatever, but if they manage to land a pick this year, then that could be like a 5 through 9 first-round pick in this draft. Like, that's a really good return, especially when you throw in Benedict Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson, I guess. So I really like the direction the Clippers have gone, depending on what value they can get out of Kawhi in the offseason. I think they're one of my biggest winners. And then the other one was Kobe White going to Charlotte, who are obviously on fire right now. They've won 8 in a row. And they basically just replaced Colin Sexton with Kobe White, which is, I think, a bigger upgrade than a lot of people are giving.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, Kobe White's going to fit in perfectly on their team. So I'm very excited to see what they can do. I'm imagining they'll be a play-in team. So yeah, that's probably my top 2.
Okay. Vinny, how about you?
Yeah, one that you mentioned earlier with the Bulls and the Celtics getting Vucevic, I think that's a trade that is flying under a lot of people's radars, and it shouldn't be. The Celtics, we expected a down year missing Tatum for most of the season. They're 3rd in the East right now. They're still fighting to compete in the Eastern Conference, try to win another NBA championship. And their starting centers coming into the season were Neemias Queta and Luka Garza. Fine players, not championship winning big men. Vooch, and I'm not saying Vooch is this guy that's going to net you 20 and 10, but he is a big presence down low, and he can stretch the floor, very similar to the role that Porzingis played when they won that championship. Even though he missed a lot of games in that playoff run, I could see Vooch playing a similar role, being that 7-foot stretch big on offense and just being the anchor down low on defense. And we don't know what the latest is with Tatum, but they have reason to believe that he'll play again this season, that he'll be back before the playoffs, which is unfathomable to me, that a guy could tear his Achilles and then come back in less than a year, but they seem to think it's possible. So now you're taking the same Celtics team, that pretty much the same team that was there last year, which, could have had a chance at beating the Knicks. Obviously, we know how that went, but certainly was in that series, and you add a replacement for Porzingis this year. I think the Celtics are going to be a team that you're not going to want to face come playoff time. And I mentioned Porzingis because I think Atlanta trading him away for Kuminga and Buddy Hield is a great deal for them. They're a little shallow at the big man position now with, only Onyeka Okongwu and Jock Landau, who they just acquired as their backup. But I think they can get away with that. And you slide Kuminga into a starting lineup with guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dyson Daniels, who are just menaces on defense. And I think Kuminga can be a great 3-and-D wing as well. Slide him next to Jalen Johnson, again, formidable force on defense, but can also play make and run the point from the power forward position on offense. I think the Atlanta Hawks are setting up to be a very dangerous team with their wing defenders, because they have size all over the place. They can switch 1 through 5, no matter who they're facing. They all are capable of guarding 1 through 5. So they're going to be a team that's going to be an absolute, difficult team to score on. And if they can figure out a way to integrate Kuminga and Buddy Hield into this offense and get them going, this Hawks team, I think, could hover around that 4-5 seed range and very well might surprise some people in the playoffs, considering that they traded Trae Young for basically a bag of chips, but it's working out for him so far.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I know me and Jack, when we were doing the draft live stream, had talked about this Atlanta team and them Asa Newell falling into their lap.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thought Asa was going to go way earlier in the draft, didn't go, and they're like, oh, I really was hoping Atlanta was going to take him. And then they trade back in and they get him anyway. So that Atlanta team is pretty scary if they can put it together. Absolutely. So that's a pretty big time team if they can put things together. And I'll throw this up here one more time. One other one that goes under the radar for me before we move on topics here. I love that Luke Kennard to LA trade.
Yeah.
That is a good 3-point shooter. Better than Gabe Vincent was doing for them. And I definitely think that that's going to be a move that will help them down the stretch. You get a better 3-and-D guy that can run the floor, stretch the floor. And it just gives you more options with kind of what the Lakers are working with. Obviously, you still have to feed the likes of the LeBrons and the Austin Reeves and the Lucas before you get to guys like Luke Kennard. But I definitely think he's going to be a very viable option coming off the bench in a second unit that is going to put up decent points for you every night. So that was one other one that I wanted to kind of point out before we moved on here. But that'll do it for our talk on the NBA trade deadline. Another crazy one in the books, crazier than last year, maybe, who knows? We'll leave that up to y'all. But let's move into All-Star game